guys. How are you today? Happy 4th of July. I am contemplating leaving the music on. Just a little bit in the background. We'll see. Let me know if it sounds really bad or if like you can't hear me over the music. I know that sometimes happens. But my levels look good, so technology fools me sometimes. So, awesome. Thank you, Jared. Hey, Kate. Hey, Mod Art. Oh, I'm glad you could stop by, even if only for a moment. Yeah, my son is working. Oh, you never heard any music? Huh. Maybe I had it down so low. Because it's kind of loud. It's a little loud on my end. So, well, it'll keep me, it'll keep me musically. Can you hear it now? Just a tiny little bit. Who knows? Oh, wow. At least I can hear it. Sorry if you guys can't. So, maybe let's see. Desktop audio. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so today my son is working open to close. The furniture industry does not close down for July 4th. This is a big business for him, so he's trying to sell mattresses and whatnot. And my husband went into work about 4 or 5 hours ago. They had already closed his park, and they do this because they run out of parking spaces. And, there's like a capacity, right? And so they had already closed down by 9 o'clock this morning, which is super early. He's usually there. I mean, he's the park manager, but he's usually there. He directs traffic, so he can be outside kind of monitoring everything. But anyway, they had closed by the time he left. So, I don't know. I sent him off with his cooler packs and his liquid IV and all that stuff because it is hot today. Although I just looked at the 10-day forecast or the 7-day forecast, and I think there's only one or two other days that are cooler than today for the next 7 days. So I hate summer. I suffer from mild heat intolerance, which I always have, like since I was a child, but in my older years, it has it's gotten worse because of medications and stuff like that. So they closed your parks for fire danger. Yeah, you're in Northern California, right? I guess if you guys I think you guys always have drought conditions around this time of year. And yeah, in the summers when I've been out like to the Bay Area and like Tahoe and stuff, I know. And that kind of stinks because at least up your way it's usually not unbearable. So, the parks are a nice place to be, but yeah, fire. Oh gosh. I remember driving out to Tahoe one time with my my sister-in-law and her husband. And just random fires on the sides of the road. I was like, "What? Oh my god." And they were like, "Yeah, this is the time of year for that." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, if we see a fire on the side of the road here on the East Coast, it's like, call in the whoever. It's usually like barbecue on the side of the road here. But Druid, I know, so blazing hot. I checked. My phone has the weather app on the main screen, and I checked it around 11, and it was 88 or 84 degrees, and then 88 right before I started. So in like 2 hours, or 3 hours, it had gone up 4 degrees. Yes, the idiots with the illegal fireworks. We have that problem here too. And, honestly, we haven't had a lot of rain lately, so we're kind of dry. Like my grass is just completely burned. We don't usually get those kind of conditions until late July, mid-August. It's like Everything's like moved up 2 months or something. It's strange. Climate change for you, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, we get that with the fireworks, and oh my gosh, I know there's been times when people set stuff off and you can see it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't let something land on my roof and burn my house down. Like, that's terrible. But yeah, anytime you're close to a lot of trees and you know, grassy stuff and undergrowth and all that stuff, ugh. 93 with 68% humidity. Ew. I think folks who have never spent much time on the East Coast or never lived here, you probably, I mean, I know there's humid areas throughout the country, but I mean, the mid-Atlantic and then inland a little bit, like Jared lives a couple states inland, it's just swampy. It's terrible. And oh my gosh, go down to Florida this time of year, like the Gulf Coast. Oh, I'd rather live in just a boiling pot of water. It's awful. But yeah, that dew point makes such a difference. Oh, it's only low because the wind is blowing. 68 is not low humidity in my opinion, ma'am. 30% is low humidity. But yes, it's not that bad compared to what it could be. Like, we're getting like the 80% humidity sometimes. It's like, it's so humid, you're like, why can't I just scoop water out of the air? Feels like you should. But you know, one of the problems with that humidity is like you cannot cool your body temperature off, so people end up with like heat exhaustion and heat stroke, even though they may not be like in the beating sun. And that is because, I mean, your body sweats to cool you off, but when it is so humid outside that it makes no difference. You know, your body is sweating and you're wet, but you're not getting any cooler. So it can be just as dangerous to be in this horrible humid, you know, with a high temperature kind of conditions as it is to be like in, you know, blazing sun, but a drier. So they can both bring on some really fast heat exhaustion. And that is dangerous because that leads to heat stroke. So yeah, gotta hydrate. Got blackberry lemonade today. I've been trying to lay off of sodas, and so when I'm not drinking water, I drink flavored stuff. Because our water, it's not that I don't like water. I do like water. Ice water's great. But we have terrible water here, and even filtered, it still tastes bleh. So I think they put so much chlorine in it. Because, well, it's Baltimore. Welcome to Maryland. Anyway, so today, inside is so cold I have to wear a sweater. Oh, yes, foggy glasses and sweaty eyebrows. I have that problem all the time. In fact, last night, Jill and I were doing needlework nights, and I don't know, it's like we got a gust of humid air inside my house or something. I think my son had been in and out, and it was kind of like a little warm. And one whole side of my glasses was fogging up, and I'm like, ah. So, yeah, the struggle is real. I feel terrible for people that, you know, don't have access to air conditioning, you know, or just don't have, you know, a way to get cool, or people that just have to work outside. You know, I mean, obviously today, probably only people in recreation are working outside. You know, the road crews are not out, I don't think. I mean, it's a federal holiday, so anyway. So, yeah, stay as cool as you can. I think I remember talking about last year when it was really hot last summer, having like was like old school air conditioning where you get a big bowl of ice and sit it in front of a fan. And lots of people do that, and you know, or did that. Oh, you grew up without AC. Yeah, so I grew up with AC, but we were poor. So the times it got turned on were not as frequent as they may have been. And my grandparents especially were like, both sets of my grandparents actually were like, you don't need air conditioning to sleep. We'll just have the air conditioning on in the daytime. I would rather be hot in the daytime, just in the shade or something. It is so impossible to sleep, in my opinion, when it's really hot. Which is funny because, think about it. If you're in a room, like say you're in a warm room, and you're having to listen to a lecture. I don't know if you like in school or at work, if you've ever had this situation. You're sitting there, you're trying to listen to a lecture, and you're like, dozing because it's hot, it's warm. But it gets a little bit hotter, and forget about it. You can't sleep. One on the wall. Yeah. Well, how did you do it? I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, how? We've always had 2 window units in this house. We now have 3. And I can't even imagine what my electricity bill is going to be like. But we didn't have heat upstairs for probably the first, 8 years we lived here. And I don't know how we did it because my gosh, it's cold sometimes. we had heat. It was, we had space heaters and we had like a forced air kind of thing, but still is not as warm as having the baseboards like we have now. So makes you murdery. Yeah, I have to admit I get very cranky when I'm hot, and then like I was saying, the heat intolerance, there comes a point where it goes from like cranky to, oh my god, get me in the shade, I'm getting ready to pass out. So I remember, I played field hockey when I was in junior high, right before high school. I played Parks and Rec, and I remember going to practices in the summer and just like running, going to hit the ball and just going like, why am I falling forward and I didn't hit the ball? Oh my God, I'm passing out. Oh, yes. You know what? I think that's a phenomenon, Druid. And I don't know if they've studied it, but I do think crime does increase when it's hot. Yeah, people are just cranky. I don't blame them, but like, don't commit crimes. Just get some ice. Get yourself some ice. Get a cool fruit salad. So today, I'm just doing I was going to do some stitching, but the lighting over here is not super. So I think I'm going to do more prepping than stitching. But I have a lot to prep. So I thought that would be fun, and it's easier. I don't have to stitch. But I've been doing my Mary Witherwax embroideries. Ow! I'm gonna stab myself. So I'm working on this is one in progress, and when I get them prepped, the pieces prepped, I safety pin them to the block they're going to be on, and this is actually the one I'm working on right now. And here's another one I prepped. So I like to prep a few, have like the pieces all cut out and ready to go. So, I can sort of put away all the paraphernalia and just have a needle and thread. This is when I still have one block that I love this little block. I think it's supposed to be a monument with some flowers beside it. But yeah, I haven't counted to see how many blocks. I think I'm on track for my 100 days. So today is, let's see, there were 30 days in June, right? 30 days, yeah. So I should have 34 blocks if I'm up to date. So let me count them. Okay. So I'd have to count by 4s. Oh God, that involves math. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. Hey Jen, happy 4th. Yeah, this is Mary Witherwax. I haven't been keeping track. I'm checking to make sure that I'm actually up to date, and I am. I'm a few blocks ahead for the 34 days we're at right now. It's funny, there's a person in our group, and I'm hoping I can get her to let me share her blocks soon because they're really cool. They're scrappy like mine are, but she's using fabrics that are more like reproduction fabrics and stuff. So But I keep getting worried because I see what she's working on. I'm like, oh my gosh, Kay's so far ahead. Am I behind? But I think she's just had time to do a few more. So, yeah. So yeah, I'm having a good time stitching these. This one was fun. And I'm doing stuff in weird colors, and I just have, what did I do with it? I'm usually all spread out on my couch. My husband calls it my nest because I have one of those tables that, you know, like a hospital table, right? And I can pull it over the end of the couch because I hate to put stuff on the arm because it falls. So I usually have everything spread out on that table. A doll quilt! Oh my gosh, Jen! Oh, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, post it when you get a chance. That'll be so cute. I know a couple people said that they wanted to make like just something very small. Yeah, I think Robin had something going on today, but hers, I think she was gonna make hers into a pillow. She did embroidery outlines on hers, which was cool. So yeah, basically as I'm in my travels, I have a bag full of scraps, and I've changed them out twice now, I think. Because as I exhaust the colors and the stuff I like, I'm trying not to do a whole bunch of repeating colors. I have a few things where I've used the same fabric twice or a few times. But I'm trying to, I have enough vintage scraps. My gosh, I could probably stitch scraps all over the entire town. But anyway, I think it's probably about time to switch this sack out because there's a few things in here I still want to use, but I'm kind of use this one up. So, and then I have another set of wither wax that I've been working on, and this one I haven't been putting a whole lot of effort into. I did a bunch of blocks, but I think I want to get back to them. And these use a buttonhole stitch along the edge, and there's no seam allowance. It's not turned under. It's actually raw edge under there. And I use Heat and Bond to glue them down, and that keeps the edge from fraying. Not that this will be something that'll get washed, but I'm doing them all. The fabrics are just two colors, pink and white, and the backing blocks are a charm pack from Ruby Star Society. I think it's one of their newer lines. And I pulled out all of the fabrics that are just the background prints, like the dots, like little dots and little flower sprigs and little sort of like little stars. So anyway, I have a bunch more to do. So, and wool, yeah. I think there's probably some of those floral ones, the kind of chunky ones that would be really cool in wool. I think there's some, oh, thank you. I think there's some that are so, well, I mean, you could do pretty thin stuff with wool if you have like a really well felted wool, like a boiled wool. But yeah, some of these shapes are like a nightmare. I'm like, oh God. You have to get like a really, like these little circles. Oh God. Let me put my hand behind there. You can see it. Those little circles, I fussy cut some little blue roses and then this little stem. Oh my gosh, that one made me crazy. I had to put pins in it and it didn't want to stick together. But then this one, this sort of burgundy fabric, I think it's a very low quality fabric. So, it has some starch in it. And it was very crisp, and so that one was actually really easy, because you could get like a really crisp line there on those little arms, I guess. Yeah, I'm really curious, like Mary Witherwax, this was 1851, I think, when she made her quilt, and these are, some of them it's really obvious to be like, she wanted to make stuff with flowers. Hey, Robin. I didn't think you were going to make it today. But you had some 4th of July stuff going on. But I'm glad to see you. And yes, happy Friday Eve. And of course, today feels like a weekend to me. And yeah, I'm probably going to be confused till one day. Such is the problem with the holidays like this. But yeah, some of the things that Mary Witherwax did were definitely flowers. You know, probably things that she saw either, hey, Miss Rawl. Well, gosh, there's more people hanging out with me today than I expected. I thought it just might be me. I know a few of you said that you would be her. But anyway, I think Mary Witherwax, you know, she obviously made things, you know, like she envisioned little, you know, flowers in little pots and things. And, you know, she probably saw stuff like that around her. She seems like she was probably a gardener or something. But some of her little designs are so fanciful. You know, they're just kind of odd looking. And so I kind of wonder, you know, what's up with that? Yeah. So, you didn't get up till an hour ago. Sometimes we need our sleep. That is for sure. So, but I thought I could. Some of her designs baffle you. I know. And, you know, honestly, I think some of them, what I've sort of gathered, what I would assume, is that she probably, like, I think Dawn called her a doodler. So, you know, she may have just drawn some little designs. But I also think that she did cut paper stuff. Because some of them, like the symmetry of them, there's this one particular block that I just finished. Where'd it go? It's here in the stack. This one? Yeah, this one. This one, I am almost certain, was folded and folded, and then she cut it out, but they're ever so slightly, these two knobs and these two knobs are ever so slightly different. So that's why I think she folded it and then she cut paper. Where's Jill? I'm not sure what Jill is doing today. We're supposed to catch up after this. So, yeah, I'm not sure what she's up to. I think she's just hanging out. Your husband walked up and saw the chess piece / monument and said, why the random chess piece? I think we've all thought of it as a chess piece. Maybe she was running out of ideas and her ideas outpaced her drawing ability. Yeah, there's some of them are really kind of wonky looking and weird. But, and you know what? I actually found at least one instance where there are two of the same thing, and it's a leaf. And it's almost identical, so I think she must have done it twice. Yeah, so some of these things, yeah, they're just weird looking. But that's the excitement, you know? And actually, let me see if I can find it. I can show you guys. And this may not make a whole lot of sense if you're not super familiar with Mary Witherwax, but I just do it with my keyboard. There is a new book by Nick Ball. All right, what have I done with my keyboard? Did I accidentally turn it off? There we go. It's a book called Use and Ornamentation. I think. Ornamentation by Nick Ball. And the front of it, yeah, it's called Use and Ornament. Use and Ornament, an exploration of the improv quilt. And on the front, I'm just on the Amazon website. So on the front of it is a quilt, and it's actually a temperature quilt. So, and they are these little pieces. There's more detail inside the book because I have the book, where you can see he actually did these with the buttonhole stitch the same way I did with my little pink and white ones. But my gosh, don't they look like some of these Mary Witherwax shapes? When I got the book and I was like, oh, look at that. They are so similar. And isn't that funny? Just, I mean, maybe Nick Ball saw the Mary Witherwax quilt, although who knows? I just feel, I mean, like there's literally a shape there in the middle, and if I move my mouse, you won't see it, but um, it's like one, two, three. It's like the third row down, and like maybe like the fifth thing over. It's orange. It definitely looks like something that's on the Mary Witherwax quilt. So I mean, he I really, really doubt that he was referencing the Mary Witherwax quilt when he made this, but I feel like he probably went through the same process of like every day that he did this, temperature. It's a temperature quilt, so it, goes from really, really, the hot is probably that almost like that maroon brown is probably like the hot, hot, hot days, and then the different grades of like reddish orange are the reasonably hot days. I would guess yellow is cooler. White is probably very cool. I don't know. And then, you get into the blues and greens, and those are another set of colors or another set of temperatures. I don't know how people decide. Like, I guess I don't know. There's probably a chart somewhere that has a suggestion. I don't know. But, I mean, you can see it's very seasonal when you look down the quilt. But yeah, that's what this represents is, the temperature every day. But I can imagine him going every day and having to create a different shape. And so I bet he kind of had the same experience that Mary did. And of course, we could ask him. We can't ask Mary what her experience is. Ad break starting soon. I feel like maybe I need to adjust my ad breaks. I feel like there's ad breaks all the time. But I'm not saying anything that's urgent, so. But, yeah, so maybe I'll do these first. The question is, my desk is too small for this. So I think I'm gonna cut out and do these because those are easy. I don't know what is happening with this. I'm wondering, is this website glitchy? I might have to turn off this music because even if since you guys, it sounds like you can't hear it anyway. Yeah, it's like it doesn't want to. See, now that sounds louder now. Oh, because it is. Okay. Let me know if it gets troublesome. So, and by the way, if you haven't seen, I know many of you have, I've showed it off a bunch of times, but this is what the Mary Witherwax quilt looks like. It's all red and green, but again, you could see, it looks a lot like Nick Ball's quilt. I think that's Nick Ball's quilt. I don't think it's somebody else's. So, what I'm gonna do, I already traced a bunch of new shapes on this Heat and Bond, and it's like a big roll, and it's a paper backing, but it's got like this layer of, oh my gosh, Chicamo, it has been forever. How are you, friend? It is so good to see you. So what's new? It being, yeah, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here live. And it being not your holiday today. Because you're in Canada. I'm so excited that you could make it. Oh, it's good to see you. I don't think I talked to you even since, I don't know if I've really talked to you maybe once or twice since QuiltCon. Farming season. Okay. I don't know. I know that there's some farming stuff that goes on up there, but in the Pacific Northwest. So, as I was saying, I traced these on a piece of Heat and Bond. And so, like, again, it's paper, and on the back of it, it has, this doesn't really show up good on camera, but it's got like got a glue. So, I just trace all the pieces out. Heat and Bond, you have to be careful with when you do shapes, especially if they're bigger shapes that are going to, take up a lot of space. You cut away the middle. You get rid of some of that glue because it makes the fabric stiff. And even if it's not something that'll be washed or like used as a quilt, it still has that like kind of an icky feeling. It doesn't have that soft, fabric hand. So when I'll cut these out, so you can see like the squirrel is a big shape. So I'll trim away the middle there. So it's only like maybe probably less than 1/4 of an inch outline will just be around the edges of the fabric. So this is my desk here. And because with all these air conditionings running, I'm going to turn out one of the lights for a minute to put on my iron. Oh no, I'm in the dark. I will turn that back on in a minute. Oh my gosh, you guys. I think when I first started streaming, I can't remember if I had this overhead light or not. So probably maybe some of my first streams were like this in the dark. Not that these streams are much more like, high tech and all that. But yeah, so this is my wee little iron. I know lots of people have those nice little Oliso irons, the little small ones. I bought my mom one for Christmas a few years ago. They're not cheap, but I never bought myself one. And so I just have this, I think it's Sunbeam. Oh no, this one's Steamfast. I think this was one I bought. They were out of the Sunbeam one, but Sunbeam makes one that's this size. It's a travel iron. And what's really funny, it's heating up, so I don't want to, oh, it's not heating up yet. It's a travel iron, so it has this little doodad on the side to what I thought was so basically to lock the handle or to collapse the handle so it's smaller. So look, this is like this is gonna be like the seat recline on an airplane. So watch. So I switch that little thing and then push it in. Oops. Woo! I saved about 1/4 of an inch in my packing. I mean, it's ridiculous. I get it. Try to, make things as compact as possible, but it's like, yeah. Okay, so what my strategy with these is to, I do these only in pink and white. So, and I decided not to try to stick with what Mary Witherwax did with the, by saying like white is going to be green and red's going to be pink. I kind of do what I want to do. So actually, you know what? I think I'm going to wait on the iron. I'm going to cut some of these out first before I start ironing. So that'll take some time. And this iron is hot. Surprisingly, reflecting heat back on me. So these are the two colors. And my paper scissors. My husband once saw me cutting some of this out with fabric scissors. And to be honest, once it's ironed down on the fabric, you kind of have to cut it out with fabric scissors or really, really sharp paper scissors to get through the fabric. So, I mean, technically I'm going to be cutting on paper with my fabric scissors anyway, but my husband was like, oh my God. You're cutting with cutting paper with fabric scissors? I'm like, they're my fabric scissors. I can do what I want with them. So, this one I think will end up kind of being just sort of thick and, because it's got these little cutouts. What is happening with this music? So, to cut out the little holes in this one. The other thing I do is leave a little bit of a margin, like 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch around the outside, because then you get a cleaner cut. If you're trying to cut like right up against the traced line, you sometimes end up with like a raggedy cut. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this music because it's just coming and going as it feels. I wonder, do you guys know if there have been sun flares or something? I feel like internet has been real weird, and my phone service has too. And it's always real weird, so it's probably nothing, but I just always feel like there's something technology oriented always going on to make the day harder. Russian interference with my stream. I have to be honest, like cutting these out, well, stitching them is very relaxing too, but cutting all this stuff out is really relaxing as well. I feel like I can cut things more smoothly with scissors than I can trace them. I have real wobbly tracing. I feel like every time I trace something, it just looks like real. Like I did it with my feet. So what is everybody doing today? Are you just kicking back like me? Staying out of the heat? Do you have fireworks plans tonight? And what happens in Canada on July 4th? Probably nothing. Nothing different is my guess. I think you guys had a what do they call it? Canada, is it like an Independence Day I think Canada has? I don't know a whole lot about it. Because like Canadian Thanksgiving is like a month before ours. And then I think Canadian Independence Day or whatever they call it is sometime a few weeks ago maybe. What somebody told me, I don't know. July 1st. Oh, I thought it was a few, yeah. July 1st. And this is a really ignorant question, but is Canada's independence also from the UK or from England? I know Canada was part of the Commonwealth, and I don't know if I kind of feel like it still is. I don't know how that Commonwealth stuff works. You think I would know more about these things, but Canada just being a few miles north. Gotta get up there someday. Neighbors will probably get rowdy with fireworks. Yeah, I hear you, Druid. Same. The only thing I think that would have me outside today would be if I had a pool to go to. My neighbor's husband, his sister, always invited us over, like July 4th and, other times during the summer. And then they got divorced. So I don't get to go to that sister-in-law's pool anymore. She had a really nice pool, too. I think that would probably be my very first luxury buy if I won the lottery. Would be, well, I probably have to buy a house first, and then because I don't think where I live is not. I guess you could put a pool in my backyard, but it would be real cramped. So I'd have to buy a house with a bigger backyard. So, Montgomery County has Down County fireworks on Saturday. Oh, okay. Jen, I'm so jealous. I used to belong to a pool up here. We have a couple of community pools, and then some circumstances changed, and it didn't make sense to continue being a member because I couldn't get up there very often. And my son was doing other things because I think at that point he was getting ready to finish up with middle school and just wasn't into it anymore. And then I drove by there a few years ago thinking like, yeah, maybe I'll join the pool again. They closed it down. It doesn't exist anymore. And then the other pool that's closer to me is like you get on a waiting list for like years to get a membership. So you're bad with your Canadian history. Don't say that too loud. But yeah, I think Eva and Tish usually knows her Canada history. Wow, I think they're natives. So yeah, I would too, Druid. I like to swim. That's one thing I learned. So when I was a kid, my grandparents had friends who had beach houses. And so we would go. Oh yeah, if your kids are doing swim team, that is a perfect reason to be at the pool. But my grandparents would take us to the beach, and we'd stay in homes that were, vacation homes that were owned by family friends. And, back then, the 70s, 80s, it's like, so there's not down there. It was the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and so down there during that time period, it was very touristy, but there weren't necessarily, these luxury places with pools and stuff. And I could just never understand then, as an adult going to the beach, like, why would you have a pool, at the beach? Like, what? But then one year, I take that back. So there was a vacation where I had to convince my husband that a pool at the beach was good. But I went to the beach with some friends, and this house had a pool, and I was kind of like, pool, schmool. Well, the house was far enough from the beach, like the walk was kind of a pain. And so, when the water's really rough, like maybe you go and take a dip, when the water is a little bit calmer. But if the water's rough, sometimes, they're flying red flags, and the red flags mean you don't go in the water for whatever reason. I think maybe sharks have a different color flag, but if they're flying a red flag, it means it's dangerous to go into the ocean. So, it's good to have a pool because then you could still on a hot day get in the water, even if you can't get in the ocean. So I learned that. And then my husband and I, we had a little bit of a windfall. This has probably been 15 years ago, maybe a little less. And we were like, you know what? Kind of a last minute decision. We're going to go down to the beach, rented a house. And of course, again, with the last minute decision, you don't necessarily have your pick of the beach houses because people have already rented them all. So it's, it'll be one that just didn't get rented that week. And it turned out we got a really nice one. It was a little bit of a walk from the beach, but still very nice. And I was like, it's got a pool. Or my husband was like, it's got a pool. I'm like, no, this pool is good. We get down there, and this was late in the season, and it's kind of bordering on hurricane season, and the waves and the rip tide and all that stuff, the rip current, were really bad. And so for the 6 days we were there, I think 4 of them we could not go in the ocean. So it's like, but we had that pool. So I always say, if you're going to spend the money to rent like an Airbnb or a vacation home at the ocean, go to one that has a pool. The term red flag, it could. I don't know. I guess so. I mean, red flags, I think, are always, in nautical terms, does anybody know? I know in nautical terms, a red flag is a bad thing. It's a warning. So, yeah, that seems right to me. So, you want when it's like having a pool, dig a hole and throw money into it every day. Like cleaning a bathtub a couple times a day. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's why that's why you're wealthy and you have a pool person. Like to walk on the beach, but the big public toilet, no thanks. Oh, yeah, it's funny. I know there's a lot of people that don't like they say open water, and I don't know I don't know what that means to some people. To me, open water means the ocean. Um, that things like lakes and ponds are not open water. So I don't know. I think people have different definitions about that, but people are weird about the ocean. Like, I don't want to go in the ocean. It's open water. It's dangerous, and it is certainly. It's dangerous if you don't know how to swim. If you get caught in a rip tide, like rip currents, it's bad. And there are sharks, but I feel like people probably get in trouble more often in lakes. Um, Maybe I don't know. I could be completely talking out of my butt, but I feel like that there are so many more lake fatalities because people dive into lakes, um, you know, hit their heads, that kind of thing. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I understand, Druid. Yeah, Robin, Kate was saying, I don't know if she's still here. She was just stopping by for a minute, but she was saying, they're in California. They've got um, the fire warnings, and I guess no fireworks because of the dummies that put off the fireworks and the hot, dry. I'm sure that's your problem too. There depends on the beach. Yes, ma'am, you are correct. For instance, Maryland, we have Ocean City. No, thank you. It's not a bad place. It's just the kind of place there's the boardwalk, there's, lots of touristy stuff. And so, it just brings in everybody. And when everybody is in a place, there's lots of somebodies you don't like. Okay, you're still here. Over the bay and the ocean during fireworks. And that makes sense. It's safer where there's water. But I think the Jersey Shore, also something you've probably seen on TV, is also a place I don't want to go. Um, Parts of Virginia Beach are a little. There are more suburban beaches on the East Coast in some places where there's just not a lot going on, and so while you'll get crowds of people like families and stuff that just want to be there for the beach and nothing else, so they can get kind of crowded. You don't necessarily have I don't know, I don't want to say anything that's offensive, but the riffraff. When you're by the parts of the beach where they have all of the things going on, that's where you get some riffraff, and you know it can get awful. But when you just have families, suburban, you got to drive out to go get food and all that. That they're usually a little bit quieter, nicer. Highly intense night because the fireworks. Yeah, yeah. Santa Cruz. Okay, yeah. Robin, are you originally from California? I can't remember because I know that you're inland now. Um, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Um, Dry sagebrush. Oh, okay, San Jose. Okay, yeah, I like that area. That's a nice area. So, yeah, and I really think gosh, I think all of the major places around here will be doing the fireworks. Sounds like Jen just said she's down south of me. They'll be doing fireworks there, and Baltimore City, as far as I know, they're doing their fireworks. The DC fireworks are big. Oh gosh, I've never gone to that, and I never will. Um, Down in DC, that's one of those like people crammed on the National Mall. No thanks. So I am perfectly happy to be at home during these types of holidays because it's terrible to say, but and I mean, I understand people want to have a good time, but I always feel like there's so many just really awful tragedies around like the summer holidays, and I just, I always worry about my husband, you know, when he's at work with stuff like this, because it's like, inevitably, there's probably more years than not that somebody has done something stupid and gotten hurt. Of course, that's any day at a public park, but a state park. But I just feel like it's, you know, the more people, the more chance for the dummies. Huh. Speaking of dummies, do you guys ever watch or look at? It's an Instagram account, and it's probably a Twitter account too, called Torons of, is it Yellowstone? I think it's Torons of Yellowstone, and they post all of the dumb things people do in national parks, particularly like Yellowstone. Um, I don't know. Some people, I'm like, how did you get to adulthood? Like, in all seriousness, because people do such dumb things, you know, and they're the same people that like hold fireworks in their hand. Oh, why didn't it go off? Pow. Yeah. Yes, petting a bison. Yeah, the bisons, the you know, there's coyotes out there. People are like, oh, it's like a nice doggy. No. Leave the bison and the coyotes alone. The wolves aren't there for you to befriend. Although it's interesting, they recently posted, there was a guy fairly recently, I'm assuming it was recently, bear attack. And they posted about his bear attack, not because he was a Turon, but because they're saying this man did the right thing, and that's what has saved his life from this bear attack. Much like Druid says, she doesn't really have a whole lot of desire to go, you know, to go swimming in the ocean. I too don't have a whole lot of desire to go hiking in the mountains like that. Because, yeah, I don't want to run into things like grizzlies and bison. I like to look at them from a distance. I don't want to encroach on their territory. I'm not interested in that. Yeah, that guy, I mean, I want to say he was former military. He liked to do like kind of backwoods hiking kind of stuff, and his wife was waiting for him in a parking lot at a trailhead, and he realized there was this bear, and he had likely gotten between her and the baby, and for lack of a better words, the bear effed him up bad, but he saved himself because, you know, he knew what to do. Yeah, you know, Druid, the bears, we've had a few sightings around here. I don't know that they're necessarily becoming much of a problem. Like, oh my gosh, I know in like parts of Nevada, California, the bears, like up north, are but our bears, we have black bears too, and they're like pretty much, you know, stay out of their way, they'll start you, and they're smaller. But yeah, it's worrisome when they're coming in to where a lot of people are, and it's because their habitat is being affected, I'm sure. But they're coming into cities and towns and stuff, and you know, they destroy things. They're looking for food. They'll get into trash cans. You know, there's stories about, you know, they'll just literally break into people's houses. Oh my gosh, walking right up to people in Gatlinburg. Well, you know, it's funny. One of the parks here in Maryland, I want to say it's down southeastern Maryland, whichever, Sandy Point maybe. And my friend was going to be going down there to camp with some friends, and she said, oh, I've never been down there. It's kind of really wild, you know, like much more rural down there. And I was like, oh, don't worry. Just look out for the bears. Totally joking. Darn if that weekend people posted on the internet, and I don't know if it was literally that weekend that it happened, or that just happened to be when these people posted this video and story. They were sitting at a picnic table, like playing cards and just having beer. This bear comes out of nowhere and sits down with them. And you see it like just plops down on the end of the picnic table, like the seating area, the seat. And the people are like, so yeah, it is the fact that they recognize people are a source of entertainment and food. And so they start to lose their fear because they recognize that people are afraid of them. So, yeah. Wild animals, for the most part, I would say, with the exception, like grizzly bears, you know, if you're up there in the grizzly bear country, I would probably not hike around a whole lot if there's grizzly bears, because they are very territorial, I guess. And they do, you know, they will kind of go after you. But most wild animals, if you like, make a lot of noise, like, warn them that you're coming, they sort of they steer clear. The wild animals I of course worry about are snakes, because it is the season. We got copperheads around here. I don't know so much about like rattlesnakes and like water moccasins. Water moccasins I always thought of as rattlesnakes when I was a kid, but they're not. They're a different type of poisonous and predatory snake. But yeah, oh yes, the Turons for sure. But yeah, it's funny that you say that, Jared, like the people, the perverts. Definitely, parks are really bad for perverts. I wish I was kidding. My husband has so many stories over the years. I mean, he's been working for the Park Service for, so my son is 26, so like 27 years, I think, just over 26 years. And the gross things people do in parks. And they tend to think of parks as like, oh, this serene place that nobody's going to see, nobody's going to find, what they're up to. Or, unfortunately, sometimes when people go to parks when they want to take their lives too, he gets a call probably every couple weeks in the summer. Endangered person, their car's been spotted in the parking lot, and so they have to look for them. And sometimes it turns out to be a happy story, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, people, there's the creeps that are like, watching people in outdoors in the park. There's the ones they call married but not to each other. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Oh my God. Oh, no. An erection appeared from behind a bush. Yeah. Things like that happen. Hey, Jill. Yeah, you just walked into gross stuff that happens in parks. Because we've been talking about hot and fireworks and forest fires and parks. And yeah, there's gross people. Gross dickweed. Oh, too funny. My husband always tells this. He likes to tell this story. He had, I'm trying to think, this woman fairly high up in the state echelon of the Department of Natural Resources, Park Service. And he had told, I guess she was visiting the park, and so he told her, like, he had to go deal with something, go take another spin around. It's aliens. And he said, yeah, there's a report of a guy sitting on a picnic table. And he goes past, and indeed, there's a man sitting on a picnic table, completely naked. So, word to the wise, assume something gross has been on the picnic table. Always take a tablecloth or some kind of covering if you're going to sit on a public picnic table in a park. So, sitting on this picnic table, and luckily it was his back was to rub as he was driving down the access road, and the man was enjoying himself by himself. If you get my drift. And so, my husband, they actually get the police for those things. He doesn't have to deal with that. He just has to report it. So he goes back to this person above him, and he tells her, what he saw and why he was calling the police. And she's like, oh, well, are you sure that's what he was doing? And he said, ma'am, he was either whittling or diddling. So that's always been our joke. Either whittling or diddling. So yes, this is what happens in the park. Oh goodness. Yeah, and it really stinks that people like that ruin it for everyone else. There's a lot of things that people do in national parks and state parks and county parks that really ruin it for other people. Yeah. Oh, nice. It sounds like a nice, yeah, tennis courts and stuff. Yeah. Have I talked about the quilt behind me? I haven't. Grants are playing the splash pad. Flipped off. Oh, yeah. Oh, I hear that, Robin. Yeah, you always want to watch out for your littles because they are the most vulnerable, I think, in public places, unfortunately. Ugh. So the quilt behind me. Yeah, I was actually going to put a different quilt up, but this quilt, I call it my grief quilt. I made this after my grandmother passed away. My grandmother and I were really, really close, and she died in 2018, in March of 2018. And as we were cleaning her house out, I just she had this, like, I guess it was a chest of drawers, but it was really wide and kind of short. So, but she'd always had it, and it had these big, two giant deep drawers in it. And so one of the drawers was packed with, like, folded fabric, like more yardage type stuff, and then the top one was packed with scraps, and a lot of them were double knit. So that's what this quilt is. It's all double knit. I started off doing not really it's not a double wedding ring. I really started off kind of just looking at those orange peel shapes. So you can really, like, see, like, that shape, these here. And it's so when you do those, like, overlapping circles like this, and if you just have them as outlines and not, broken up like this, it ends up looking like flowers. You have this sort of floral thing over and over, and it overlaps itself. I've seen it called, like, the not tree of life, something of life. So that's kind of what my design looked like until I broke it down into all these components. And there is kind of a rhyme or reason, but you can only see it sometimes, where, like, kind of the blocks, you can kind of see the blocks. But essentially the way that I put it all together, it wasn't like square blocks. I kind of had to overlap them because of the circle shapes. It took me all summer. I think I finished it in, like, September of 2018. Oh, thank you, Jill. I love it. It is a quilt that I will never get rid of, because some of these fabrics, like this one right here, I know it's hard to see. This one up here, oh, you can't see, it's too high. It's sort of a peachy, like, two colors of peach. There's a yellow one down here, and then some of these, like, stripes, and then some of just the solids. Like, there's a blue solid in here. You know what? I'm not sure if I have a full photo of it. I've taken a bunch of pictures of it, and sections of it do live in different places on my, different social medias and stuff. Yeah, I probably should hang it up and take a photo of it. But anyway, these fabrics are things I remember my grandmother actually having clothing made out of. And some of these are just scraps. This one up here. Let's see if I get this down a little bit. There's one up here that I only have a tiny bit of it. It's kind of a brick red and white and black plaid, and then there's a solid brick red that goes with it. My grandmother had a pantsuit, and the pants were that solid brick red color, the brick color, and then the jacket was, and I think there was, like, a little shell top that went underneath, and the jacket was the red and black plaid, and it's, super tacky nowadays, but she wore that all the time when I was a kid. Like, she'd be going out, to the grocery store, but she'd always get, nicely dressed in one of these, like, pantsuit kind of things. And that one just sticks in my mind as one that she wore a lot. And oh gosh, it was probably 99, 2000. I went to a 70s party that some friends threw, and I borrowed it from her. And she said She said, oh yeah, of course you can borrow it, but just bring it back because I still like to wear it sometimes. And I'm like, this is nearly the 21st century and you're still wearing stuff from the 70s. She's like, yeah, you make something good, you know, you don't give that up. You just keep wearing it. But anyway, yeah, I will definitely have to do a photo shoot of this one. It's got a lot going on. I don't know. Without close-ups, you probably can't see a whole lot. I mean, you could kind of see some of the quilting lines, I think. But I did like there's some stuff up here where it's like cross stitches and kind of some like quasi Sashko sort of stitching. And I submitted it to QuiltCon, and of course it got turned down. And that was, I guess, in 2018 is when I submitted it. I'm trying to think when their call would have been. Anyway, it got turned down. But like the last 2 years, I've looked at some of the quilts that are at QuiltCon, and darn if they don't look a lot like this. So I'm like, boo, boo, QuiltCon. Anyway. Yes, I did hang out with my grandmother a lot. She sewed more when I was really little than as I got older, but no matter how old I was always allowed to use her sewing machine. And, you know, her button jar and all of her notions and, you know, all of her thread and stuff was always, you know, fair game. I could use anything she had. And most of the sewing that she did, like she made clothing when I was really little. And then as she got older, most of the sewing she did was sort of just like, I don't know, like mending, fixing things. She would do mending for the neighbors and stuff. I never filled her sewing machine with pins now. I forgot you knew that story. My mom, the story is when I was probably about 3, my mom took her sewing machine to be serviced, and the service guy was like, you need to be really careful with pins. And she's like, what? And he's like, your machine was full of pins. And she's like, what? And then she realized I had been feeding the sewing machine pins, and it was through the thread take up, you know, the part that you put the thread through and it goes up and down. It's connected to the needle. Anyway, the guy said, oh, you're lucky, because that could have really messed up your sewing machine. So I'm sure I got a talking to. I also used pinking shears to cut some hunks out of the middle of her yardage and to cut my own hair. And what child has not cut their own hair? Does anybody have any hair cutting memories from their childhood, or maybe of siblings? Yes, pinking shears are hard to resist, as are little interesting sewing machine holes. Yeah, my mom will never let me forget it. She thinks it's funny now, but she's like, you know, I really needed my sewing machine back then because I sewed for money. So... And she had a Singer Touch and Sew, which were really big back then, but they are notoriously bad in terms of, even if you've kept them in really good condition, because they had nylon gears, and the nylon just breaks down, even with good care. You cut your friend's hair. Yeah, that's probably worse than cutting your own hair, cutting your friend's hair. Me and my best friend in middle school and high school, we used to cut each other's hair. You know, we wanted bangs or whatever. I'm actually pretty good at doing bangs. I've always, when I've had bangs, I've cut my own bangs. But yeah, my mom would always be like, "Oh my God, what have you done to each other? Stop cutting each other's hair." Oh well, just hair. It grows back. But you know. Inevitably, children will cut their hair right before picture day. And my sister-in-law, she did that. And there's, you know, the family story, her name is Ginger. They always call like a bad haircut Ginger bangs, because she like And hers was in such a thing, like she had literally like this little bitty like piece that was cut so short they couldn't fix it. So you were around 10 or 12. Grandmother, mother griping about how long your bangs were seen. Oh no, yes. I've done that. Yes, you cut them so short they stick straight out. Hopefully your hair grew fast, Robin, because I know at that age, oh, that feels like a death sentence if you have to go to school like that. And I feel like depending on how short they are, like no amount of barrettes and like slicking it down can help. But yeah. Yeah, pretty lucky hair wise, yeah. Mine grows out pretty fast. I need to cut my bangs because they're, yeah. The dippity doo, yeah. Yep, I had dippity doo when I was in middle school. I was like, I gotta be cooler. I gotta be cooler with this bad hair I have. So Jill, I'm working on my Merriweather wax blocks, but I'm working on the buttonhole stitch ones. So I'm prepping a bunch. I'm cutting out the heat and bond, so then I can iron them down. I thought that was probably a little bit easier for just hanging out, because when I'm hand stitching, I kind of go in my own world. Ah, Dippity Doo is a hair gel, and it would come in this giant jar. It came in pink and green when I was a kid, and you like scoop it up and like just put it in your hair, and like comb it through, and then you would then do things with your hair, like so pin curls, yeah. And I guess it depends on how much hair control you needed as to like how like gloppy you'd get on your hair, but your hair would look stiff and wet after you were done with it. And it was one that I think was notorious for, if you put too much of it on your hair, it would dry and then it would flake, so you'd look like you had the worst dandruff. It was a nightmare. But oh, I was so excited to get my first jar of green Dippity Doo. And it did nothing for my hair. My hair doesn't respond very well to that. I actually will put a little bit of gel now in my bangs, and then like here on the sides, just to like, because I have a lot of flyaway, to kind of hold that down. But for the most part, it did not work for me in any way. So I don't put a lot in there. What was the smell? Gosh, I don't remember. Robin, Drew, do you remember what it smelled like? I think it was just kind of like just sort of a perfumey toiletry smell. I don't remember it being like terribly strong or bad. But I don't remember. I think it was kind of a mild smell. It smelled like alcohol. Yeah, I think it did have a lot of alcohol, so it didn't really have a smell. Yeah, if it had any smell, it was very light fragrance, not like Aquanet. Like Aquanet. My mom said that. I think it was my mom that said my grandfather would get really annoyed because she would lacquer her hair up with the Aquanet, and that stuff was like really strong, and it would leave an aerosol shellac all over everything. Like you'd have to scrub it down because it'd be sticky on like all of the bathroom fixtures and stuff. Yeah, all the stupid things we did with our hair back in the day. I when I was in high school, well, I think I maybe showed you guys a picture from when I was in high school. For a while I had that sort of poodle haircut, sort of chin length poodly. Um, but then for a while, I also had the bangs like floofed up, like so you would do with the bangs, like they'd be up like this, like so stupid. Oh, correct. You could not smoke and use Aquanet. Yeah, Aquanet was a yeah, it was dangerous. And I feel like it was probably what was in the 80s, maybe when they did the whole chlorofluorocarbons stuff with aerosols. Aquanet did not survive that. I'm trying to think what other horrible hair things we had. I remember the one perm my mother gave me when I was probably at 11, I guess, because she couldn't afford to take me to the salon, so I just got the home Tony perm. Oh dear God, that was the worst. Oh, the pain of the rollers. I think that perms today maybe they're a little less abusive. Ah, sun in. Oh, yeah. Don't think for a second that women weren't smoking while styling and using Aquanet. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, and that's probably how they discovered it's a great weapon. If you're being pursued, all you have to do is flick your bic and with the Aquanet. um, Gosh, I wonder how many people like maybe lost their eyebrows or caught on fire with the Aquanet. That's terrible. Living dangerously, yeah. I love it. I should probably start ironing some of these down because I'm going to lose track of what's what. So, post July 4th for us holiday goers today, what you guys have weekend plans? Being that this is Friday Eve, I do not, except to probably clean my work area. I have had my cutting table absolutely piled with stuff for so long now. I need to clean it all to get my workspace back. While I was working on my Artist James Scholars project, I kind of just piled stuff up. I didn't do a great job, putting things away, and so it's definitely time for the little spring cleaning, summer cleaning. Ah, decluttering the donation stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely need to do some decluttering. Oh no. Same as it ever was. Aw, Druid. Is everything okay with your house now, Druid? I know that you had that tree fall on your property. I hope everything has been fixed up with that. Yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna be staying cool. To make matters worse, my car does not have air conditioning. It died long ago. Oh my God! They worked one day. Oh, holy crap! Now, I know you rent, right? Or I don't know if you're. There's a dumpster outside your door. Oh my gosh, girl, I'm sorry. That's a mess. Well, at least you live on the bottom floor, right? You're not up there with like a hole in your bedroom ceiling. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Come east. Not far. I think Tennessee's only like an 8-hour drive, 10-hour drive maybe. You drive through the mountains, but I don't know that I necessarily vote for moving to Maryland though. um, what Jill is saying, Jill, weren't you saying New Hampshire is a good place to go? And I was actually looking for. Oh, their roof was removed, covered in tarps. Oh, that's the worst. Ah, that's the worst. That can be problematic after a while. I hope your property owner gets their butt in gear, and I mean, because that's something that I'm assuming insurance can take care of. So, um, there is. I know insurance often will say no acts of God, but there are storm clauses or acts of God clauses in insurance that keeps people from being totally. Oh my God. He took off his clothes and bathed at the end of the dumpster. Holy Moses. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Ah, okay, yeah. New Hampshire's an affordable place. More affordable than Massachusetts. I was reading something today, and I think it was like I don't know what the point of the article was. It was basically like, I started reading it because I thought it was supposed to be like, oh, good places to live versus like, not as good places to live. But it almost seemed like it was just sort of a mixed message. They're basically saying like the places with the most freedoms is kind of like, I don't know. But it basically had Vermont is like number 5. And I'm trying to remember what the other cities were, or not cities, but states. Alaska was number 1. Or no, I'm sorry. Utah was number 1. Vermont was number 5, and I can't remember the ones in the middle, but then some of the states that were the worst, the 5 worst, were like Louisiana. I think Louisiana was number 1, Mississippi. Oh. I think Wisconsin and Florida were in the best, and I'm like, Florida? I don't know when was this article written. But anyway, it was a very dissatisfactory article. I didn't like it. I didn't think it made much sense, but it was interesting because I see those things about states, and it's kind of like, you hear something like, oh, this is the worst state ever to live in. And you're like, yeah, I can see that. But then you'll see, it just doesn't make sense, right? Oh, yeah. April. And it is now July. So, more than 2.5 months. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, because you're living with a friend, right? Somebody that does you solid. Which is a nice situation unless a tree falls on the house. Yeah, I hope they get that fixed soon though, because that's just like, if you don't own the place, well, it is what it is. But I feel like like the health of the house could be a problem for you, because like when there's problems with roofing, you get like the wood can get wet and rot and stuff, and then you end up with you can end up with mold and stuff up in the ceiling. That can be problematic. The people that lived behind my mother had tarps on their roof, I kid you not, for like 15 years. I cannot even imagine what that roof, like that situation was. Some people finally came in and like bought the property, and they've been fixing it up. So, $10,000 to remove the tree? That's insane. Oh, so disappointing when things like that happen. Oh. Which one of these shapes did this thing go with? think it's, I think it's this one. It's the problem with cutting these things all out ahead of time and not ironing them down individually. There's so many little pieces and I lose track. Probably should have written something on them. See if I can get the music back. Listening to the sound of my air conditioning. Yeah, you know. Jill would have to taxi you. Yeah, I get that. I'm not a good snow driver either. Okay, so Jill's asking everyone a question. Would people be interested if she and I hosted some private Zoom lectures with historians / quilters? There would have to be a ticket cost. So yeah, I guess what would be the ticket cost, Jill? And she also drives a Subaru, which are very good in the snow. So guest fee speakers, gotcha. Yeah, I know some speakers, their fees are super duper. I know how much I charge. Yeah, maybe we could. Yeah, maybe we could get some of our the people we know, to come in and chit chat. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Kellen. Happy 4th. What are you up to today, Kellen? We're all just chilling out. Most of us are trying to stay cool. And most of our localities have banned fireworks because it's too hot and dry. So, oh, Jill is in cahoots with someone about it. Okay. I guess this is something I don't know about yet. Or do I? I don't know. Yeah, there's a couple of folks that I kind of have a little message out to that I'm hoping maybe will come here and do a little chit chat with us. So, yeah, I like the idea of being able to meet people online and, yeah. Am I the only one that likes that noise that scissors make through paper? I always like that nice, like, zzz. I love that sound. Snick. It's just a satisfying sound. Unless you're cutting through something that you don't want to cut. And then you're like, oh no. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys something. I don't know why I just thought of this. So remember the other day I read you guys the Ruby McKim stuff. And we looked at some of her patterns and, the newspaper stuff. Well, when you're there at the end, I read some of the info about her from the Quilters Hall of Fame. I'm working on my, I'm working on my Mary Wither wax blocks, but I'm working on the ones that are, where'd they go? The ones that are buttonhole stitched. I think I've only put a couple of pictures of these out online. But right now I'm cutting out the heat and bond that goes on the back of them because it's technically raw edge applique. And here's the problem with working at a tiny desk. But so when I read you guys the piece about Ruby McKim and her husband, I think his name is Arthur McKim. And they had a son named Kim McKim, which, why would you name your child that? But after a trip, I guess they had, Ruby and Arthur had gone, like, traveling. And I'm not sure if their children were with them. But they came back from these travels, and they decided to start a doll company. And it was called Kimport Dolls. Well, I just kind of Googled, and I picked this one image of dolls that came up. And they're those, kind of, I guess they're Austrian or German dolls. They have, the face is made out of either like a paper mache or a plaster kind of thing. And then it's got fabric stretched over it. And then the details on the face are painted on. Some of them are really cute and charming. Some of them are a little creepy. And I think they did, there's like some Polish and Hungarian dolls, I think, that they did that technique with. Anyway, I looked and it was like a set of dolls like that, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that must be what they were doing. Well, I did more research after I finished the stream, and I found out that the Kimport is important because they were imported dolls. They didn't sell one type of doll. They sold all of these different kinds of imported dolls, and some of them were interesting. Some of them were, like run-of-the-mill stuff that you'd get as a tourist, the doll in a certain national dress of a European country, like that kind of thing. There were definitely some very obnoxious racist dolls. There's actually a website out there somebody had done some research on and showed some. There was like a witch doctor from Australia, which was really, really cool looking, but also like really inappropriate, very stereotype kind of, but still really neat doll. And then they started putting out this little magazine catalog kind of thing, which there's a bunch of them on the Internet Archive if you want to look them up. It's called Doll Talk for Collectors. And I started downloading them to read them. But they're like a little multi-page like thing, and I think they were very small. But they had, the early years, they had little pictures, doodled in them, like little drawings of the dolls. And then as the years went by, then they had some photography. But just looking through what was there, like, I can see this one from September, October 1952, and it's got a Kewpie on the front. So it looks like a porcelain Kewpie doll. So I learned something. That was really interesting to find out. And so it makes sense now when you think about the name of the company, Kimport, McKim's Import. Kimport. That was very clever. And just interesting. And I kind of wonder, they had this little newsletter. They had a catalog. It looks like a pretty beefy catalog, and copies of it are out there. They're collectible, kind of pricey. I think I saw, and I mean, again, it's a small thing. It's not like it's a big, thick book. They were going for like, $100 for those little catalogs. But the newsletter, because there's probably a couple years of the newsletter online, I was like, well, I can just look at those. So I kind of wonder, like, was it a nice retirement project for them? You know, that I can't imagine they could have made very much money importing dolls, but I don't know. I mean, this is the 50s and 60s. I think they actually started the catalog in the 40s, but those newsletters are not here. I think it was probably after World War II, which, on one hand, so think about it this way, I guess. After World War II, the country had, here in the US, we didn't have to rebuild the way they did in Europe. So we had relative prosperity following World War II, Men came back, women left the factories, went back, working as, being homemakers, working as homemakers. And, we had the baby boom here in the US. So I guess, just putting in that frame of reference, the years that they were doing this doll stuff would have been a time when baby boomers were children. So, I'm sure dolls were probably purchased frequently, I guess, and some people were more affluent and could afford, purchased dolls for their children. I know my grandparents they weren't very wealthy at all. My grandfather owned his own business, but my mom had a few special dolls that were bought for her. So, I guess I can see that maybe this was a golden age for doll collecting. I don't know. I really don't know a whole lot about dolls and doll collecting. I mean, I've made some dolls before. Obviously, I've had dolls. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'll find out more as I leaf through these things, these little catalogs and newsletters. But it was really interesting. Oh. Stream Ellen's was telling me to take a sip, and I did not. Oh my gosh, got quilt blocks falling all over the place here. It's pretty amazing. After 34 days, I do have all this work done. And it doesn't feel like I've been working on it that long, but I have almost 40 blocks, I guess. I didn't finish counting. I got up to where I was like, okay, I'm on track. Oh my gosh, you guys. I just realized it's 3:45. Time goes by so fast online, doesn't it? Jill and I have a debrief in a little bit, so I will be signing off at 4. We have to discuss our Sunday stream, which I think we've probably mentioned it to most of you, but in case you haven't heard, we're gonna do a little, all about seminar. I think we're calling it Quilt Nerding Investigates. So we're looking at, what's it like to go to seminar? What does admission get you? So that'll be Sunday night at 7 p.m. So I hope if you have any interest in seminar, whether it's, planning to maybe go in the future or on the fence about this year, if you're a member of AQSG, and I'm talking about American Quilt Study Group seminar, by the way, I'm sorry. So yeah, even if you're not gearing up to go to seminar this year, I highly recommend you stop by and just see what it's all about. We're going to have Carrie Dell, who is the executive director of American Quilt Study Group. She's going to be there with us. We're going to get to interview her, and she's going to be able to tell us stuff. She's good at doing the marketing speech for AQSG. Jill is too. I'm the one who's bad at doing the marketing and sales and stuff. I need to get better at that. Or I just need an intern. telling somebody the other day, I'm like, I just need an intern. I could just give the stuff that I never have time to do to somebody else. Because goodness knows, my child and my husband are not particularly helpful. When I say things like, "Hey, could you guys help?" They run. The Pennsylvania National Quilt Extravaganza Quilt Fest. What? Wait a minute. What is this? I do not know about this. Let me find out. There's always stuff going on in Pennsylvania. They're a very quilt-centric state. Have a lot going on there. Oh, it's at the Philadelphia Expo. Yeah, okay. Okay, this is Mancuso, yeah. This is one of the... Yeah, this is one of the big quilt shows. I've never been to this one. I don't know why I did... I'm wondering, has it changed? Has its name changed? Because I feel like... Quilt National is Mancuso, right? So that's what this is. I just didn't know about this, and yeah. Huh. Here, I'll put the link in here. Oops, well, that didn't work. So there's the link to that if anybody wants to check it out. But yeah, so it's Oaks, PA. Or New Hope, PA. I guess that's right. New Hope's definitely right outside of Philadelphia, but I guess Oaks is part of it's a Philadelphia, I don't know, suburb. Yeah, so yeah, so this is their Pacific International Quilt Festival. So that I'm familiar with that one. This Pennsylvania Quilt Fest Virtual Schoolhouse. I'm familiar with that. The Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. Familiar with that one. And then Quilt Fest Greenville, South Carolina. That's like where my grandmother's from. That's interesting. I didn't know about these. Yeah, the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival, that's like in the spring. That's down in Hampton, Virginia. That one's been going on for a long time. My mom used to go to that. I don't think she's been to that in a number of years, but yeah. This will be right after we come back from seminar. So, but Philadelphia is not terribly far from me, so it's like 3 hours, less than 3 hours. Anyway, the Rossville auction, no. Yeah, I stay away from auctions these days. I get myself in trouble. You know, once upon a time, I had my limits with auctions. I'm like, if it isn't practically free, I can't afford it, you know. So I got a lot of, you know, like cruddy box lots and stuff. But now I'm like, well, if it's a very fine quilt, I could consider, you know, I'm like, just because I know it's worth and I'm willing to spend that much doesn't mean I have that much money to spend. So, but were they antique quilts, vintage quilts? Were they a mix? I'm assuming antique. Those are usually what's up for auction. Mostly antique, yeah. Let me look at that. I'm guessing, I'm gonna guess it's over by now. Although I don't know, some of those auctions go forever. They went too high, yeah. That's almost, I kind of almost like it when that happens because I'm like, you know, if it's, yeah, it's on Live Auctioneer, okay. Oh yeah, I see it. Um, oh, I forget. Live Auctioneers wants to force you to log in. I don't want to log in. Hmm. Anyway, yeah, I almost like it when quilts, like a quilt that I think is really desirable, goes too high, because then I'm like, all right, there's no way I ever could have afforded that, and that's what people are finding it worth, right? Um, it's the ones where it's like just a scotch above what your limit was, where I'm just like, could I have gone that, $10 more or $25 more? And those are the ones that you always think about. You're like, oh, the one that got away. Yeah, current auction. Well, let me see. Live auctioneer. Let me log in. Because now I want to see. Even if it's still not going on, we'll still have the stuff that's in there. I don't want to do that. Come on. Ooh, a sewing necessaire. I don't know how do you pronounce that. Yeah, it's still live. Okay, sewing box. This is what I thought. Oh gosh, yeah, they have some interesting stuff. Oh my god, the estimates. Estimated $20 to $1,000. Come on, folks. Well, you guys want to watch this for a few minutes? We got a few minutes before I was gonna hang it up. Yeah, the quilts are done. Let's see. We can go back though. And see what they had. Oh, good gracious, they had a lot of stuff. It's not letting me like hit the items. Okay, so here's one sold for $325. One that sold for $150. Oh, there's a Waterman's Sewing Bird for $190. Sold for $190. Okay, I got one just to pull up. Oh, this one's really pretty. Here, let me share my screen real quick. This one's really pretty. Look at that. Lady of the Lake. Crud. Let's see. Go back to the... Okay, here we go. Okay. So these are the things that are still for auction. Oh yeah, there's people there. Yeah. These always make me nervous. It makes me nervous when there's people there because you're like, oh god, they know what they're doing. I don't. Oh, an antique Irish chain. Oh, look at this one. This one's like a trapunto. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's, let's see if this picture has it better. Look at that. It's feathers that have been stuffed. Ow. Okay, this is irritating how it goes back to this view. It's because I'm not actually... Oh, serious old school auctioneers? Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. You can see they're up there doing their thing. I know my grandmother used to go to auctions all the time for antique furniture. And I don't think my mom ever went to the auctions with her. She went to, oh gosh, look, this one sold for $1,000. And the streak of lightning was too soon. Oh. It's interesting the things that people will spend super tons of money on. I mean, this is obviously a really fine quilt. But $1,000. I guess they had a reason. Yeah, somebody really wanted it. This thing is determined not to let me look at these. I wanted to look at the streak of lightning. I keep missing it. Oh, what's this? Blazing stars? Let's make it do this. Well, let me do that? No. Oh my goodness, look at this one. Oh, that's that really Pennsylvania looking colors. Although, this I think is in Indiana. Oh, is the one you wanted? Oh, yeah, this is a good one. I really like this one. Basket weaving. You know, Druid, actually basket weaving, there are different types of basket weaving that are actually really fun and not like super difficult. But your hand, they take a lot of, it takes a lot of, like your hands kind of get roughed up from the baskets, the basket reeds and stuff. I feel like baskets are really, really hot commodities right now. I've seen a lot of baskets, like I guess in the past couple of years, at auctions and stuff. And I mean, some of it is, I think, you know, people, you know, unfortunately a lot of collectors they're getting elderly. They're, you know, they're having to get rid of their stuff, or they're passing away. And, you know, I think this was probably an age bracket of people that collected these things. Okay, this is a contemporary log cabin that Jill wants me to look at. Oh, this one has not come up to auction yet. Oh my goodness, look at the colors of the fabrics. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't have guessed from this way back view what those different fabrics are. Look at that. Wow, that's a really pretty quilt, yeah. Oh, this isn't, okay, who is this? Oh, this is Kopaki auction. Yeah, that is really pretty. There was another one I wanted to look at here, though. Ah, every time I change. Live auctioneers, you're a pain in the rear. Let that one go. Yeah, this Coxcomb and Currents I wanted to look at. Ooh, look at that. Look at the cheddar. Oh, the cheddar. Yeah. Aw, Jill, come on. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Look at this. Look at these crazy shapes too. These look like paper cuts, like Mary Witherwax. Oh my gosh. I love a sampler. Well, guys, I guess I have to keep my eye out. Jen, you gotta let me know when these auctions are, because I'm terrible about paying attention. Because I know folks like to look at the auctions. Jill and I are always surprised that people like to tune in. So, what's the provenance on the sampler? Oh, okay. So the provenance is Stella Rubin. She is a dealer that is here in Maryland, or I guess it's like really far southern Maryland. When does she say she's on the southeast side? Or no, maybe she's on the western side of DC. Okay, so a few Stella quilts in that auction. Interesting. And now I wonder, so is Stella, I mean, you guys know more about auctions than I do. Northwest of DC, okay, yeah. So would she have put these in this auction, or would these I mean, is that how that works? I mean, I know a recent auction that I picked up some quilts for Jill. I think there was a person that they put their quilts in. Yeah, I don't know how this world works that well. I just know when I see a quilt I desperately want and I have to make the decision. Can I afford this? Most of the time it's no. Well, I got a little bit of work done and I hung out with my friends, and now I must work. Oh, you were absolutely right, John. Yes. You're talking about buyer's premium and then add in shipping. Ugh. I like it when Dana, or Dana Balsamo, the New Jersey auctioneer who is a member of AQSG, and we see her often. I think she has kind of a mid-range buyer's premium, but she typically, when she does charity auction stuff for AQSG, she will waive her her buyer's premium, and because they're donated quilts, so there doesn't have to be anybody to pay for that. So yeah. Those are the deals I like, because that like 25-28%, it adds up. If you're gonna buy an expensive quilt, you could feasibly add like even a couple $100 if you're buying, depending on what you're buying. So I heard that. All right, guys, it's a little after 4 and I'm gonna hit the road, so stay cool, stay out of the heat. Have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe. Don't play with fireworks. And hopefully you come. I was so glad you made it. It was so good to see you. And I hope I see you guys. I hope I see you again soon. And I hope to see you guys on Sunday. So take care. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm so glad you guys came. Mwah!